Hey, welcome to this edition of the Healers Showcase. I'm your host, Michelle Evans, and I am super excited to be talking to Valerie Simonsen today. She is an amazing healer who works with people all over the world. So I can't wait for you to get to know her. And if you're loving what you're hearing, if you want to get in touch with Valerie after this session, then reach out to her by email at yesyouknowmore@gmail.com. Of course, that will be in the show notes and the description while you're listening. So without further ado, hi, Valerie.
Aloha, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share this time with you.
Oh, I'm excited to just chat and have fun. So I guess one of the things that I love about you is that you work with clients all around the globe. Can you tell us a bit about, you've had some amazing experiences?
Yeah. Thank you, Michelle. I'm a licensed naturopathic physician, and I'm licensed in the state of Hawaii. And as a naturopathic physician, we treat the whole person, but I also specialize in integrative medicine. So I work intimately with medical doctors. I've worked in hospitals all over the world, and to bring people all the different dynamics of healing. I've also had the enormous gift of being with some of the amazing healers from a small age that were doing natural healing, and I've really gotten more. Well, I've always had that more shamanic part of me. Like even in medicine, when I was first in as a EMT, that's working on the ambulance, what would concern me is that we weren't taking care of the problem. And then when I started medical school to be an ER physician, and because I really wanted to find out how do we get to the roots of things so that people don't keep on getting sick, right? And then I had a couple near-death experiences, and through that process, then I got into naturopathic medicine. And that journey has been amazing. And there's been more amazing people like Papa Ka'alakea out in Maui. He could touch the blind and they could see, and the cripple would get up and walk. And after his passing, that happened in my office. And it still is, it's amazing to me how somebody can be so sick. Like the other night I was in an art gallery, and this woman was really ill, and she just sat down on the floor in front of me, and she just started doing breathing, and we just started moving with the energy, and she had a really high fever, and in probably 20 minutes the woman was completely fine. And it wasn't that I did anything, it's that she remembered that she had the gift of healing within her. Thus the name of my business is You Know More. You have the answers inside. And
I love it.
Yeah, and it's very much what you're in alignment with. And
yeah.
I'm to have that connection with you because it's what it's all about now.
Yeah, and helping people to remember how amazing and how powerful they truly are.
Right. Yeah.
And I love that because we are absolutely on the same page that way. In our whole goal is that you don't need us, right?
Exactly. And it's very quickly, I've had a session with you, and it was heart opening, and it was like, well, you know what? I have two choices. I can go back to her, or I can just use that information and move forward. And that's what is so beautiful. And we've talked about this, is not creating codependent relationships, empowering people where they are so that they can create whatever they want in their life, whether in my world, treating holistic. I work with money, I work with their job, I work with their health, I work with everything, right? And people turn things around so quickly now. It's exciting.
It is very exciting and such a huge gift to bear witness to as well.
It is.
Right?
Yeah, it is. It's astounding to me sometimes. And it's just like what used to take months when I first started in medicine, people are doing this in 5 to 20 minutes. And I'm even seeing that we can even do it faster than that now.
Yeah.
Because people really are sick and tired of all that other stuff. And they just really zone in, they fix whatever it is, whether they need to change their DNA, or whether they need to just change the story, or maybe they're just nutritionally deficient in something, right?
Yeah. And I love that your expertise like covers all of those realms.
Yeah.
Right? So it really is about helping the entire person.
It is. It is.
And
Yeah.
and I think like going back to what you said in that it can be a whole lot quicker now. I love it. And I think, correct me if you don't agree with this, but my standpoint is kind of like people are okay with it being simple rather than having to spend 10 hours reading a textbook and trying to get through the theory of it and process that. If we can give somebody a 20-minute, 45-minute experience, it shifts so much faster.
Yeah, and it's interesting though. I really was thinking about this morning because I have a woman that is back in my life, a client that was very ill like a year and a half ago. And then she quit being in touch with me and then called yesterday in crises. And I had an opening, just, per chance. And she had done all these other things, right? And she's highly educated, all these other things. And she's in a very serious situation again. And we just went back to what I originally gave her. And within less than 40 minutes, she was completely empowered. But her mind really had a hard time wrapping around that. It really was. It was like, Valerie, how could it be this simple? How can it be this simple? Isn't there more to it? No, there really isn't. This is it. You just get to be better, right? And like I'd ask a question and the words would just come out of her mouth and she's like, where's that coming from? And I said, well, that's your innate wisdom that's speaking here. And she's like, whoa, And so it can be simple, but I totally understand it takes some time for some people to really be able to embrace that, and to understand that they do have that. It can be that simple. And then the other thing, Michelle, that's missing in our culture, and I'm in America, is that community. If there's a problem, in fact, that's how we met, was in a situation where it came from a problem solution or a problem focus way instead of a solution focus.
Yeah.
And we've got 12-step meetings for Alcoholics Anonymous, codependent, blah, 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 blah. But so if you have a problem, there's support. And that's some pathology.
Well, and that's an excellent point too, because number one, if there's a problem, there's a solution. Mm-hmm. But number two, it requires you being able to identify exactly what your problem is.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I
And I
find,
talk to people all the time that are like, oh, I'm stuck. Well, there is no Stuck People's Anonymous, right? So, like, yeah, and I totally agree with that. And number one, we're so problem focused. But number two, there's no help for you if you can't identify your problem.
right,
Whereas
right.
you and I tend to talk more about solution.
We do. We do. And we also, through our experiences, and you have shared a little bit about your life, and we walk a very similar path in that is we, or I'll speak for myself now, it wasn't easy. You know, I was raped from the age of 3 to 12, and many abusive relationships after that. And there was a critical illness that led to the near-death experiences, major surgery, recovery of my body that was cut in half from the surgeries. You know, there's just so many things there that gave me what I call compassion. And the other night, this woman I was telling you about at the art studio, she turned to me and she says, "Are you a wounded healer?" And I said, "No, I'm not. I'm a woman that has had a lot of experiences of getting hurt, but I'm not a wounded healer." And that really was big for me to shift out of that whole thing, because when I got into natural medicine, that was the buzzword. Oh, wounded healers make the best healers. I've stepped out of that. The best healer is the one inside of you. And when we can really remember who we truly are, we were all born royal. We all have royalty. We just got to remember that they're the queen or we're the king and treat ourselves accordingly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, I talk to a lot of people that definitely resonate with the wounded healer.
Mhm.
Um, yeah,
And that's cool. That's
I love your take on it, and and I want to thank you for sharing like part of your stories or your experiences that required various levels of healing, right? Because
wow.
because I think like exactly like what you said, it empowers you with compassion. And for me, I usually say like my experiences allow me compassion and also genuine understanding. It's not about trying to imagine
Right.
what that would be like. It is, I always call it the difference between like standing behind a podium on a stage versus sitting on the floor.
Oh, wow. That's
And
beautiful.
right? Because we're not talking from theory.
Yeah.
We're talking from having been there.
Yeah. 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 And I have found that through the years of my personal healing, that if I have a reaction to something, then I know I haven't healed it in myself. And then people are going to come to me that have the same issue so that I can heal it in myself. Right?
Absolutely.
But I get to go on this journey with other people. It always happens like that.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that. The difference is, through my education as a physician, a naturopathic physician anyway, I have so many tools. Flower essences. I love flower essences. Stone therapy, which you're an expert in rocks, right?
Yeah.
I'm all about that. Rock therapy, homeopathy, nutrition if one needs it. Um, there's just so many things that I have, and I just think about the world as it is right now. And I'm like, I understand why people need to go to the drugs. I do. But there are a lot of other options. And I know if I wouldn't have had those, I wouldn't be here today. I
Yeah.
would. I wouldn't.
Well, that's why for me, when I talk about energy healing or crystals or like all the things that we do, I always use the term complementary medicine because I don't believe in alternative.
Yeah, right.
Like it is, we work together. It's not one or the other.
Yeah, that's
right.
wonderful. I remember when complementary, when that word came out, and I was in a meeting in a hospital one time, and they brought that word out, and it was like, wow, yeah, we are very complementary. And then it quickly shifted into integrative.
Yes.
And that's what really, when we can really integrate medicine, yay. More importantly, though, is when we can integrate us. Is when there's trauma and we've been there, done that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that fracturing that happens within our psyche and our soul, sometimes in the body, actually. We need to bring those back together. And I call that remembering, bringing the members back. And when we bring the members back and we start playing as a team again, wow. Because what was it in that little girl in you? What was it in that little girl in me that made it so that we could survive? What happened to us? Why didn't you kill yourself? Why didn't I kill myself? And for me personally, it went through my mind many, many times, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. But for whatever reason, I am here.
You did.
Right. And there isn't a day that there's not another part of me that'll come back and go, hey, Valerie, hey, you, remember me? Ah, yes. And I feel more whole now than I ever had. And in that wholeness is the contentment and the ease. And I see that happen so quickly, Michelle, when I'm working with people. It's like, diseases go away. I had a woman that had thyroid cancer. They radiated her. They gave her chemotherapy and surgical removal of the thyroid. And after 6 months working, doing the process, nutrition, castor oil packs, all of these kind of things, she went back and they did a blood test on her, and it showed that she had normal thyroid function. She'd also lost over 200 pounds. And the doctor said that it's not possible that could happen. And I saw the labs. They redid the labs 5 times. And finally, the laboratory said, there's something wrong with our laboratory. No, there was nothing wrong with the laboratory.
Wow.
It came back to life.
That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. And I mean, I could tell those kind of stories all day long. It's astounding to me. And the name of my business came from, it's You Know More, KNOW, right? You Know More. But when I was in Bali and I was helping deliver babies, there was a woman that came and she was 10 years paralyzed. And she was couldn't swallow, couldn't talk, of course, crippled, and she was all deformed. And I had her husband put his arms under her shoulders there, and she just dangled out her body, kind of stretched it out a little bit. And I looked into her eyes until I saw this spark. And I gave her a homeopathic, it's called Gold. It's for depression and even suicidal depression. I gave her that, and I said, come back tomorrow. And she came back every day, and I would do whatever needed to be done. And I had a good team that helped me. And one day I'm walking away from her. Now, she had not spoken 10 years, paralyzed. She said, man, oh man, oh man, 10 years she had not spoken. She spoke English. And within a short period of time, I worked with her for 2 weeks. She was completely able to talk and walk. She walked outside with me. She walked to my going away party in Bali with me. And she had a really fun sense of humor. I mean, it just laughed. She just was funny, and I don't know Balinese, but when another practitioner had been working with her for a long time, she took me aside and she said, "What'd you do to her?" Like, ooh, God, what did I do? Right? And what I did is I believed in her, Michelle. I believed in her. And that's the one thing that I took home from that, is that it isn't me. It's all them, my client, whoever. And as long as I believe in them, eventually they will believe them in themselves as well. And that's the magic.
That's amazing.
And that's the name of my business. You Know More.
Yeah, because you have all the answers within yourself.
You do. But sometimes you need some support.
Well, absolutely. Like you cannot see the picture when you're in the frame.
Yeah.
Right? And so sometimes absolutely you just need somebody to show you that picture.
Yeah. And then it's personal responsibility. Like I remember having that session with you, and it was all about heart stuff, right? And then it was like, okay, I have these tools. Now am I going to implement them?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting game. Especially like I was so abused, so neglected. Self-care really wasn't one of my things I learned as a kid, right?
Yeah.
And my understanding of love was, hurt me, that means you love me. So through the process of healing, I've learned to be the queen, and I've learned self-care, but I still have my stuff that I do sometimes.
Well, I don't know. I subscribe to like we're always learning and helping. So like the day we're not learning our own stuff is the day that like we're done here.
Oh, that could be. That could be.
Right? Like that's the idea that I subscribe to anyways. I signed up to be a human being in order to help and to learn. When I'm no longer doing those things, that's the end of my purpose, right?
Yeah, and Michelle, you have an enormous courage that is grounded. It's so grounded. Like the name of your business is so perfect for you because you're rock. You're solid, and you can hold that space where it, like when I had that session with you, it was just like, she ain't going anywhere. She's right there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And it's so important when we're working with someone else is that we really trust them. And not, you just got to have really clear discernment when you're picking someone to come in that close to you. So you don't get, I don't want to say hurt, but it can be painful.
Yeah, and it's one thing that like I tell people all the time, my clients included, is the two most important things are trust and connection. Because whether we want to call it building confidence, whether we want to call it connection, whether we want to call it remembering, rediscovering, the bottom line is there is healing required. And so you need to be in a place where you feel safe enough to do that.
Right. Yeah. Right. And the other thing is, if it's not a yes,
it's a no. Yeah.
Bottom line. I had a potential client said, well, how will I know if I'm going to work with you? And I said, well, you go home and you pray. And you pray, is it a yes? Is it a no? And I'm okay with whatever it is. But I do find that people that do choose to work with me, they're really ready. And they get it done. They get it done, And I don't know anybody that doesn't have something going on in their beingness, even the Dalai Lama, as amazing as he is, he still deals with his physical body. And that's what's really cool being a physician, is that I've got all these other things that I can bring in that I know work. I know work. I didn't learn it online. And now it's so amazing because everything is online. I mean, I had to go to medical school to learn this, right? But as much as there is out there, it goes back to really, really simple things. Food, exercise of some kind. And I like people to dance, or dancing is my thing. It's really simple. And but self-responsibility is the bottom line.
Well, and I think it's important, like we talk about how we want clients to screen us or anyone else they choose to work with. I think it's just as important for the practitioner to also screen the clients.
Oh.
Right? Like,
yeah.
We get on a phone call and it's a two-way interview.
It is.
Because I don't actually want to work with everybody. Right?
No. There again, if it's not a yes, it's a no.
Yeah.
And then have a good referral system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have clients that all they want to do is talk. Well, I'm not a really, really good listener. I'm a really good, let's go in and let's fix it. So I have, like in Maui, I have a woman that's her specialty. She listens.
Yeah.
It's great. And eventually, if they want to really fix it, then they end up in my place, wherever I am. And I'm all over the world now, and it's just so great we can do this.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's it. Like for me, it goes back to that trust and connection needs to be on both sides of the equation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I, in my practice, I cross the lines between that talk and that deep dive. But there are some people for sure that know that they have things to heal and have been told that they're supposed to heal them, and yet their own true desire isn't there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's beneficial to have a problem. It gives them their community or attention, whatever it is.
Well,
and that's great.
Yeah, and if you've been carrying that hurt and that trauma with you for decades, it's now been integrated as part of your identity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that can be really scary to let go of.
It can. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
And so like personally, I subscribe to like everything is a celebration. So even if your breakthrough is that you don't want to deal with it yet, to celebrate that, because it is something that you just realized about yourself.
Right.
And change, no matter how good it's supposed to be, can be incredibly terrifying.
Oh, yes. Yes. I have an amazing client that 4 times ovarian cancer, and the last time it's metastasized. And she's part of a group, it's called Debtors Anonymous.
Okay.
And she said, I don't have a problem with with debt, I have a problem with under-earning. That's my real issue, right? But in this Debtors Anonymous thing, she said, bankruptcy is not really an option because you're not dealing with the issue, right? So she said, I woke up one morning and my head was, or my heart was pounding out of my chest. I could feel it through the mattress. She said, I knew if I didn't take care of this financial situation, I was going to die. And so she called a lawyer and she filed for bankruptcy. And immediately her heart went back to normal rhythm. And now she's been connected with me for about a year now. And she's starting a new business. She's a health coach, or something like that. And she's taken her mess and turned it into the message, right? Yeah. And her experience. I mean, money is such a big wound for so many people, and we all have different creative ways of dealing with it. But I mean, I told her, I said, God, you're going to be able to help so many people that have guilt and shame because they filed bankruptcy. You get to show them that healed you or helped heal you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the huge thing. Like, yeah, the line, your mess is your message, or even going back to the wounded healer analogy, that it really is all those things that beat the crap out of you at some point in your life, literally or figuratively.
Yeah, right.
It's like, if you deal with them, they are what empower you to be able to help others.
That's right. And I like to take those parts of me, let's say the one that's really scared, or I'm going to talk about money right now. I took over the family business when I was 9 and had enormous amount of stress with that. And I learned a very unusual relationship to money, which was rob Peter to pay Paul, right? And so the other day in my meditation, I was shown that I need to give this part of me a new job description. It was even I would get my notice that my payment was due, let's say on my vehicle, and there would be something happening inside my body, visceral response. So I gave her a new job description, and she was going to be the CEO of my, or the chief financial officer for my finances. And then this word came to me, which I didn't know what it meant. It was Satoria, which means the goddess of security. Wow. Yeah. And as soon as I let that fear have that new job description, I'll tell you, everything, I paid my bills this morning, there was nothing there. Right?
Yeah.
And I was in a business deal one recently, and it wasn't going good. And I was really getting angry. I was just so angry at this company. And I went, anger, you get a new job description. You get to be my attorney. And that day I contacted that company and I told them, this is it. There was no story. This is it. It was such an attorney coming to the job. And they're just like, ooh, ooh,
Yeah.
So using the power of these parts of us that maybe is the fear or the anger or the whatever it is, and given that new job description. And then I have the analogy of the yellow brick road. We have all these parts. We have this journey. Let's cherish every part of it. Mm-hmm. But give it a new job description. You used to do this. Now you get to do this.
Yeah.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah. It's a good tool.
I love it. Well, because all those parts of yourself are so valid and important.
Right. And going back to the yellow brick road, right? The whole premise of the lion was looking for courage. If every one of us really looked at what we went through as children and we're survived, that's very courageous. Okay? And the Tin Man wanted a heart, right?
Yeah.
And from my experience, most people care deeply. Everybody is kind inside there, okay? So we have a heart. And then the brains, even if there was no education, the ability to figure out how to keep yourself safe, brilliant. And then you have people that do have an education, such as you, or I'll pick on you right now, or not pick on you, but honor you. You're brilliant. I remember the first time I heard you talking, I'm like, oh my God, this woman has just really got it up here. Okay.
Well, and the funniest part, I'm going to share with you, is I have no formal post-secondary education.
There you go.
All of my post-secondary is very specific.
That's really, really cool. And your life experiences on your yellow brick road, right? That's what gave you that education.
Mm-hmm.
You're brilliant. You have a brilliant mind. You're very courageous. And you have an enormous heart. And Dorothy in the yellow area in the Wizard of Oz, all she wanted to do was come back home, right? There's no place like home. There's no place like home. I used to build houses in construction. That's what I did for a long time. And now what I do with people is I help them build their home so that they can come home with a capital O-M. As when we come home with all those parts of ourselves,
Yeah, it is the game changer.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no place like home.
And it allows, like, I find the same thing because we work in very similar arenas, right? That reconnection to all that you are, the ability to come home. It also allows you to be kind to yourself, even like no matter what is going on around you.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not about who you are on the outside.
No.
Even when it feels like things are falling apart, you still have that ability to be at peace.
Right. And in the culture, there's so much focus on that you need to achieve something. And it's falling away very slowly. And now it's just, you get to be. You get to be.
Yeah. And for a lot of my life, I subscribed to that, right? Success was my job title, how much money I made.
Of course.
And it was a terrifying day when I realized that there is a huge difference between being confident in what you do and being confident in who you are. And in that moment, I also realized I had no idea who the hell I even was. Right? Like that. Yeah. Which has led me to why I do what I do now, right?
What I love about what you do right now, it's so natural, organic, and unassuming. You don't have a lot of bells and whistles. And there's a lot of people out there that when they're trying to, let's say, launch a business or something, they think they got to have this thing that's sparkly and no, you just get to be you, and people will show up as long as we will allow that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Right? That's a whole nother conversation.
Right. Yeah. And I see everybody on this planet as a healer.
Mm-hmm.
Different things that people do. And can we monetize that? Is it okay to monetize that? You bet. If that's what you want, then you go for it, right?
Yeah.
And the most important thing that I've learned in this last year, don't drink somebody else's Kool-Aid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's like you and I align really well that way too, in that I don't want you to be me.
Yeah.
Right? I am not going to teach you how to be me.
Mm-hmm.
I am simply going to allow you to see and become you.
Right. Right.
And then all the tools that anybody gets from working with me, I fully expect you are going to adapt them to you and help other people in some way.
Yeah.
Whether that is just the conversation that you have with the cashier at the grocery store is a bit different.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You're right. Like you don't have to open a healing business,
Mm-mm.
but when you heal your heart, you heal the world.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And I did a research many years ago, and I asked people, do you feel safe? And I interviewed thousands of people, and not one person said, yes, I feel safe. They would say, oh, I have my money in a special savings or I have locks on my doors, or no one said they felt safe. Now, this was America, okay?
That's huge, though.
It's huge. It's huge. And that goes back to the container that I feel like when I had that session with you, you hold a container that's safe. Because if we can just feel safe for even an hour, that changes all the chemicals in our body. Even 5 minutes, if we can feel safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then uphold that with our service to other people, whether it's in the grocery store or in your clinic or wherever it is, because we all want to feel safe. All we want. Want to be fit and loved. But love is a whole complex, complex issue, ideology. I don't know what to even say, but it's Valentine's Day today, and it's all about love, right? But what do you say? What do you say about that?
Yeah. I think for the most part, as a society, we tend to have a warped idea of what love is, because the reality of it is Hallmark movies aren't freaking real. Like,
Why not?
yeah, no, Hallmark movies are not real. Like, and for me, like, unconditional love is one of my core things. It's one of the major thing that makes that safe container. And it's not romantic.
Mm.
It's not a dozen roses.
Mm.
It is simply love and acceptance for all that you are.
Mm.
It's not up to me to agree or disagree.
Mm.
It is my job to hold that container for you regardless.
Mm. Beautiful.
Right? Because again, for me personally, it goes back to, it has nothing to do with what you do or where you've been or what you've done. It has everything to do with the perfect soul that I know you are, even when you can't see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Yeah. Yeah. There's goodness in everyone.
Mm-hmm.
There's just all of that other stuff that has happened that can make us maybe be different than we truly are. Yeah. And when we're walking in the world, I think discernment is very important.
Yeah.
Wise choices. You know, is this a really beneficial choice that I'm making right now?
Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Valerie, you don't even like orange Kool-Aid.
Trust and connection. Right? Yeah.
Right. And in that particular instant, I learned so much because I went to the situation, I drank the Kool-Aid, but what was it that I was really looking for? It wasn't Kool-Aid. It was connection. I wanted a team. I wanted a team. Well, I made some friends in this whole process, but the real team is what we've talked about before, that divine connection, right? With spirit, with the divine.
Yeah. I call them my spiritual support team.
And you also have a really cute saying about, I know who's driving the car or something. My chauffeur. Remember you?
Yeah, don't try and give the chauffeur directions.
Yeah. And it's been so amazing. I was sharing this with someone yesterday that since I've left this business deal, I am so feeling great because every move I make is what I used to do because I'm connected here.
Yeah.
You know, where when I was trying to learn this from these people, I didn't do that.
Yeah, you're busy looking outward.
I was, and I got sick from it. I got physically ill. Yeah. And it cost me a lot of money. Poor choice.
I hear you. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it is one of those things where as human beings, we tend to learn more by experiencing what we don't want than when we experience what we do want. So it's all like a huge learning opportunity, right?
It is. And then to take that a step further, because I learned from my trauma that pain means love. And in that particular situation that was so painful for me, financially, emotionally, spiritually, everything, it was so painful. I got to take a higher view and say, oh, you know what? That person was just like my dad. Oh, that one was just like my mom. Oh,
Yeah.
one was like my cousin. Oh, it was just another recreation of my family. And this time I got to say, hey, I'm not going to do this anymore, right? One of the first books that I got published is called Ho No More. And it's ho, like whore, no more, with a capital N-O. And I took out that book one day and looked at it and I went, God, I got to quit prostituting myself here. Because that's totally what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was giving away all my power. I was giving away my money. I was giving away enormous amount of time. I was prostituting myself. And I wrote a book about it. Damn it.
Well, and I love that because it is so true, like how often you can be looking back at your own work or talking to a client and it's like, oh yeah, like, right, I need to remember my own stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I really do. I'm a lot like you in this, Michelle, is everything, every person, every experience is a teacher for me. Mm-hmm. And then it goes back to, did you get the lesson or not? And am I
not? You just get to experience it again.
Yep.
Right?
Repeat it until I get it. And then there's a day when I I say, I'm not going to whore myself anymore. I got it.
Yeah.
And make wise choices. But really understanding the bottom need of everything. And as this woman was sharing with me the other night, she said, the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing right now is I really want to be part of this society. I want to be a part of it. And we need to be a part. We need to be connected.
Mm-hmm.
We do. We have to have that. But with that, we need to make wise choices. Because if somebody isn't listening to you, as I just recently experienced, they didn't listen. They listened to themselves. They didn't listen to me.
Yeah.
Then it just recreates what I had as a child. Right?
Well, and I think that's where that discernment piece comes in too. Right? And where, like, we both have experience with this same organization. And I find it ironic, or I see the irony in it, in that you and I both operate from a place that there is not a one size fits all. There is not a cookie cutter approach. Everybody is individual. Their uniqueness deserves to be acknowledged and supported.
Right.
And yet, this was a cookie cutter one size fits all program.
Right. And in that, put into the cookie cutter and having that painful experiences makes me a better practitioner to make sure that I never will do that. Because maybe I have, and probably did on some level. But I'm so much more aware now. And in that, I love what you say, and I'll repeat it again. I will not support codependent relationships. When somebody works with me, I'm not going to give them the answer. They have it inside. And I may work with them for 25, 30 years. I mean, I've delivered babies. I've helped them now deliver their babies. I helped deliver when they were a baby, right? And now they're having babies. So it may be a long-term relationship, but I'll tell you what, I don't tell you what to do. I won't do it. And that feels so good to me. In a crisis, I'm really good at that, though. I can. But most people aren't in a crisis.
Yeah. Well,
it may seem like a crisis, but it's really not. You're really not dying right now. But I know CPR if you are.
And I think that's absolutely it is just about being able to open that door for you to see what has always been there. And by helping someone to discover that in themselves, that's empowering.
It is.
Right? Versus if I tell you, do this and that and this, then, like you said, that's the codependent, reliant piece.
And that's what makes you and I so unique, is we don't support the codependency thing. Mm-hmm. And you have proven, and I have seen it, people get it, they move on. They may need some help again, and they move on. And that is so rewarding. So rewarding.
Well, it's why, for me personally, it's why all my programs are short. Like, I have an 8-week group program. Yeah. I have a 3-month one-on-one program. I don't have a year long.
No.
I don't have, because like you said, it can be quick and it can be simple.
Yep. That's right.
It's probably, honestly, it's probably not always the wisest for my pocketbook, but that's not that's not my primary concern.
Right.
Like I can see where people are tempted to elongate something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I guess is what I'm saying. I can see why some people want to stretch it out.
Well, yeah, for a financial reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my ex was an MD, and when people came in and filled out the form, and they, let's say, had 17 things they wanted to deal with, he had a plan that over the next number of years, he would be addressing 17, but right now we're going to do one. Where when someone comes in to see me and they have 17 things they want to deal with, they're all one. We just find that root, right?
Yep.
When you go to the root, it's like, okay, maybe one session, maybe 2 sessions. I mean, 3, they get it, it's fixed, they move on, and then they may have another thing, and they know that they can come back to me because it's like, okay, like this woman yesterday, she said, I've been seeing all these doctors and da, da, da. And my roommate said, well, have you called Dr. Valerie? And she said, oh, yeah, I forgot. And her roommate said, do you really want to fix this? And she said, I do. And she says, call Dr. Valerie.
Yeah.
And she was nervous about letting it go. She really was. Well, she didn't let it go. She gave it a new job description. But she's getting ready to launch this new business for herself that is so amazing. So amazing. And completely shifted things in such a short period of time. She's on her own. And her physical body immediately changed.
I love it. And I love like exactly what you said, that exactly that. Some people might see 17 problems and have like that one at a time thing, whereas like you and I both, I think on that aspect are like, oh yeah, 17 problems. Well, actually these 10 are this one. And this 7 is linked to it by this means. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. If a tree is not doing well, you don't fix the tree. You fix the soil, get the nutrients to the roots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same with people. So I had some contaminated soil when I was young. And as my Aikido master, Jeff, told me one time, he said, you're used to eating sticks, dirt, and rocks, Valerie. And I was. That's how I was raised. I didn't get vegetables. We had an orange once a year at Christmas. I really was used to eating dirt, sticks, and rocks. And now, even as an adult, I'm learning, what is abundance? What is luxury? What is it like to have a buffet? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that constant learning. And the counselor I worked with for a year, she specialized in sexual abuse. And every time she'd say, Valerie, this is a worthiness issue. Every time. I took every homeopathy, every flower essence. I wrote a book about worthiness. One day she said, this is a worthiness issue. And I said, this is no effing worthiness issue. This is what I learned is love. Hurt me.
Yeah.
So my soil, I get to keep on restoring the soil. And people like you, Michelle, is some of my fertilizer for that. You're good for my dirt, right? And when I am around people like you, when I'm around my clients everybody has something really good in them. And I get off of a phone call with a client or with someone, I feel good. Yeah. They're good for my dirt. They're good fertilizer.
Yeah. Well, I love that analogy because like anybody who is familiar with natural disasters or oil spills or anything can get behind that one. Like remediation is done over decades.
Right.
Right? Because if you remove all of the contaminated soil at once, the tree is going to die because it has no support left.
Right. Right.
So you
Exactly.
constantly have to be recycling and reintegrating. And like, I love that analogy. I may very well use it going forward.
And with that getting back to the roots, but also the rock, you know, that's the essence of your business. And I've always played with rocks myself. And like I went back to Maui after being traveling for quite a few years, and I did some event and all these people came, and because I had a huge practice in Maui for a long time. And people came up and they said, you know, remember that rock you gave me? Remember that rock you gave me? I'm like, you know, that's what they remembered. And on the rock, it maybe said something like love or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and just that touchstone that they've carried that all these years. And it's that simple. Come home, the rock, come back to Earth. And I recently watched a movie where Earth was being destroyed. I had nightmares that night. And the next morning I woke up and I went, nobody's going to tell me I have to leave the Earth. My whole life up to that time has been, I didn't want to be here on this planet. It's too freaking hard. And I was always looking for a way out.
Yeah.
But when I saw that movie and the movie said I had to leave, I went, nobody's going to make me leave.
Yep.
You know? And as a naturopath, that's what it's all about is let's get back to nature. Let's get back to the rock. Let everybody out there, go out there and you're out in your yard and find a rock and put it in your pocket. Put it in your bra. And just remember that you are part of this earth. That rock has every element. Every element in that rock is in your body. We're the same elements, just different compositions, right?
Yeah.
As we come home and we really, like that day that I went, no, I'm here. And it's not that I'm going to fight harder for the earth. I'm not going to fight. But I'll tell you what, I got some brains up here. And I'm pretty smart at figuring some things out. And I also know that we can always do a grassroots type of thing to change, or we can go where there's a lot of money. And I'm really liking, and I have for many years, I like to work around a lot of money because the change happens that quickly. And with these children that are being born, that are coming in with these inventions, I want the money there for them. So, okay, let's build it. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's the biggest thing about nature. Like I'm very fortunate to live in a location where I have easy access to vast nothingness, which for me is my favorite place to be because it's like really embraced by the paradox of I am nothing and yet I am everything. Because I'm so minuscule compared to the vast wilderness, and yet I can also have such a huge impact.
Yeah.
And I think that easily gets forgotten in the hustle and bustle of city life and career, and to really stop and acknowledge that every single thing that we need for survival is naturally on this planet.
Yep.
Right? Like that is not a mistake.
Really. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And to find that place of emptiness within ourselves. When I was given an opportunity to be sponsored by a very wealthy family, I had to leave my practice in Maui in order to do that. And in Maui, I was very well known. Television, radio, I worked in the governor's office, I worked, the mayor's office. I mean, if there was anything, there was Valerie, right? And when I moved to California, nobody knew me. And furthermore, they didn't care to know.
Right.
I became a nobody. But as I was writing my letters of resignation from all these organizations that I'd been a part of, I started to feel lighter and lighter. And I started a book. It's called Empty Yet So Full. And by the time I got done the first year on that property being sponsored, I knew what it was like to be empty, yet so full. Just me. Just me. Not what I was doing.
Yeah.
Just me.
What a huge gift that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's also like a beautiful note to leave people with.
Mm-hmm.
Is that empty yet so full.
Yeah.
So I guess I have one last question. We've talked about all kinds of really cool stuff. But I'd love to ask people, like, what is the one thing that you wish the world knew?
The world or people in the world?
Whichever speaks to you.
Okay, first of all, the Aina, the earth, she already knows everything. She's got a handle, okay? People, it's that you know more. You know more.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. And make wise choices with people that believe in you, Yeah, because you do know more.
There you go. And on that note, I'm just going to remind everybody that if you want to get in touch with Valerie further, it is yesyouknowmore at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Michelle. Oh, thanks for being here. And for everybody listening, until next time, I see you, I feel you, and I love you.